Hello and welcome to LedgerCast. My name is Brian Krogsgaard. Got a special guest today, Piers Kicks. We're going to talk about NFTs and the whole landscape of NFTs beyond just, art projects that are worth $30,000 for pixelated images. We're going to get into everything, the underlying technology, the real, separate it from the fiction. Before we do, though, I want to tell you about token sets. We're brought to you by Token Sets. Go to ledgerstatus.com/sets and check it out for yourself. They make investing pretty simple. You can do automated strategies. It works really, really well. All you have to do is go to ledgerstatus.com/sets. You can even check out Tulip, one that I built myself. It's asset management simplified. They've got battle-tested tools. If you've ever heard of the DeFi Pulse Index, that's built on token sets. It makes it much more passive of an experience for investors. It's a lot of fun. It's great. Thanks to Token Sets for being a partner of LedgerCast. Now let's get to the meat and potatoes of the show. Piers, welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here. Big fan of the show.
Yeah, I am super glad to have you. You reached out to me, I think for the first time, maybe a month or maybe 2 months ago, and gave me some free alpha that I was appreciative of as I was making an open call for getting help with the NFT landscape. I knew I was behind and I needed to catch up, and you sent me some of the research that you've done through Delphi Digital, or Delphi Digital as you pronounce it. So why don't you start off with, like, how did you get your start both in crypto and then like on the NFT side?
Well, yeah, I started out in crypto relatively early on. I was, still am. It was really into a game called RuneScape, which I'm sure will be familiar to many folks here. Was been playing that since about 2005, I suppose. My brothers and I all kind of grew up on the game. Even built our own sort of RuneScape private server at one point, which was good fun. But I ended up at one point sort of running a kind of gold farming operation around RuneScape. We were, offloading some RSGP to some sort of gold sellers and stuff, and that was actually a kind of roundabout way that I first got involved with Bitcoin. Sort of one of the people around, what I was doing in game, was involved with it. So it was pretty early on. Didn't really have a huge idea around it when I first got engaged with it, but over the years messed around a bit with a few different sort of mining types and learning about all the different kind of mining pools and reward structures and whatnot. And then kind of disengaged with it for a while. I was at school, meant to be studying and whatnot. And then, sort of back into 2016, I don't know, I think the whole world computer narrative really clicked with me and got me really excited. And so, as many do, kind of fell down the rabbit hole much more and ended up spending a lot of my time reading about it. And I was lucky enough to be around for all the 2017 fireworks and whatnot, which obviously got pretty exciting. After finishing my studies, I kind of went on to study computer science and philosophy at university, which lasted an astonishingly short amount of time. One of my best mates, who I'd kind of got into crypto the year before, had met some guys based out of Spain who were really interested in the space. So, flew out and kind of had a long boozy dinner with them, as you do, ran them through the whole kind of space, how I saw it, and kind of what I was excited about. And, about 3:30 in the morning on a Wednesday night with this wicked German guy called Philip, asked me if when I finished my studies, I'd be willing to kind of set something up in the crypto space. So doing what every sensible young lad does, went back to England and packed up my stuff and moved out to Spain, and kind of set up the first company there, which was sort of fund looking to, allocate to the crypto space. Sort of ran 2 private portfolios for him and his business partner to begin with, and then kind of evolved over time, wanted to, raise external capital and kind of expand the sort of investment activities. Then did all the classic shopping around jurisdictions, checked out Malta, the blockchain island, or so they promised, and then settled upon, sort of came and set up and whatnot. And along the way had the good fortune of meeting Jose, who's now part of the Delphi team. Met him out in Paris at Paris Blockchain Week. Shared some sushi and some thoughts about where everything was going. And it was a pretty fun time. It was the kind of conference circuit back then. Him and I ended up doing like 4 or 5 countries in the following 2 months together. And became super close friends, sort of to this day. And one of those countries was New York, and New York Blockchain Week was on. And Jose and I were both massive fans of Delphi Digital. To my mind, putting out the best research on the digital asset space, period. And so our paths kind of crossed, we hit it off, and one thing led to the other, and eventually we kind of converged and combined forces. And Delphi's definitely grown a lot since. I mean, back then it was just sort of 6 or 7 and maybe a couple of more, and now I think there's like nearly 25 in total. And Delphi's also expanded well beyond the kind of core business of research into a consulting division, which has worked with a bunch of the leading projects, like Synthetics and Aave and Axie in the gaming space, and then also launched a venture fund January of last year.
Is the consulting side, that's what y'all call the labs section?
Yeah. Forgive me. There's been a recent launch of labs spinning out, so we just changed the wording around. But yeah, exactly right. And then kind of within Delphi, I've been covering the NFTs and gaming side of things. I think for me, that's just the aspect of a lot of this tech that resonated with me the most, and I felt like was within my circle of competence, if you like. So really dug deep, and obviously after the original kind of hype wave with CryptoKitties and whatnot, there wasn't a huge amount going on, but you use that time to kind of get in the right headspace and dedicate a lot of thought to sort of where this stuff could go, and figure out the different kind of areas of application for them, which even to this day I still think we're only just scratching the surface of. But yeah, it's been super cool along the way.
Yeah, so you were already getting interested in NFTs back in the first run of when CryptoKitties and stuff came out?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, I was never crazy on the kitty side of things.
But you saw like from a token spec perspective, and like what could come out of it. You were already seeing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also just obviously there are loads of those like hot potato NFT games back then, which were good fun. I mean, you got a fat adrenal surge participating in those, but it was pretty clear that there was appetite for like this style of investment, this concept. The market was completely overheated. 2017, the glory days. But it was pretty clear that there was a number of people excited about this, and even then, I think it was pretty clear that it appealed to a certain style of investor, if you like, that isn't necessarily the one that first comes to mind when you think sort of crypto investing. And I'm glad to have seen how that's developed.
Is that when some of the stuff that you've gotten involved with since then, like Axie Infinity or some of the other ones that came out, and they're relatively new, but they're fully featured? I guess they started building kind of on the tail end of the last hype cycle, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And I think one of the cool things about a project like Axie is the extent to which they really embrace this the kind of tools available, and really pursue those deep blockchain integrations. It's not just some of our assets have tradable cosmetics. It's like everything is tokenized in the game context. There are two sort of there's one native game currency and then a governance token, and they really push these kind of blockchain mechanics to the extreme, to the extent that the developers are primarily making their sort of revenue through like the tokens appreciating through sort of capturing a portion of those fees that kind of flows to the community treasury. I mean, I think it's a really awesome new genre business model. I don't know how you want to describe it, but this sort of play to earn concept. It's an entirely new breed of game, which is super exciting to see.
Yeah, and from a time perspective, I know you recently made an announcement. So you're still spending a lot of time at Delphi, but you're also doing another project too now, right?
Yeah, so just announced this one yesterday, which I'm super excited about. I'm lucky enough to be joining the Bitcraft investment team. These guys were, one of the first dedicated gaming funds in the world, originally focused on esports, and now have expanded to, sort of gaming and interactive media more broadly. Kind of revolves around this synthetic reality vision they have, which is super neat, super exciting, and I think they've got a sort of almost philosophical grounding to it in terms of our heritage as a species, and the importance of play and how fundamental it is to kind of human nature. And I love that bigger picture approach to this stuff. And yeah, I mean, the team's exceptional. It's led by Jens, who was very early esports entrepreneur. Set up the ESL, one of the biggest esports leagues in the world, and couldn't be more excited. I'm hopefully gonna drop the blockchain red pill and see if we can make that happen.
Yeah, so they're not currently making or have not announced a lot of like crypto specific investments, right, or blockchain specific investments.
Correct. The one that's kind of touches upon it is a game called Epics.gg, and that's sort of collectible cards similar to sort of So Rare or even Top Shot Moments, but focused at the kind of esports space, which is a super interesting project. But the more extreme blockchain stuff is yet to come, I hope.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, so why don't we back up a bit? And one of the things that helped me when you shared some of your insights with me initially was breaking down like what the NFT landscape looks like, right? So there's gaming and there's art and there's more broad use cases for a non-fungible token. Like I like to think of like titles, ownership of anything. But then there's platforms versus tokens versus marketplaces. So how do you create kind of the headspace for how people should divide these concepts up when they're thinking about what they may invest in or what their interests are?
Yeah, so I think the kind of four major categories that have begun to develop traction are the collectible space, obviously led by things like Top Shot, CryptoKitties, CryptoPunks. There's the kind of video game space, obviously led by things like Axie Infinity. There's the virtual world space, which I like to make a distinction between. I kind of call them virtual worlds or crypto sandboxes. These are games like Decentraland, Somnium Space, the Sandbox, and Crypto Voxels, where they can be regarded as a platform as much as they are games. In that this is a virtual world where the land is independently owned and divvied up between the world's inhabitants, and anyone is free to build anything in those worlds. Many times they'll actually build a game in there. You have racing games in Decentraland and all sorts of stuff. A lot of these have great emphasis on user generated content and being able to build what you want, hence why I call them crypto sort of sandboxes. A sandbox game takes its name from a kid's sandbox where you can play and create, and those games exist outside of crypto. Roblox, Fortnite creative. Sorry, go on.
I was going to say some of those remind me of like the Oasis comparison, like Ready Player One world. I just figured that we're on our way to that in some capacity, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think I'm a pretty hardcore believer in where we're going in our direction as like an increasingly digital species. A lot of people are kind of afraid of talking about it. It's not like that comfortable of an idea. A lot of people assume that us spending and dedicating even more time to like digital environments is like, in some capacity degrading the human experience. But I think it's easier to focus on the negatives rather than some of the positives here. I think, however this pans out is going to be mind-blowingly unpredictable, and it will be a wicked, convoluted journey. But, I think 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, I think it will be totally pervasive, augmented and virtual reality. I think our relationship to these like virtual worlds will be profoundly different. I think, there'll be legitimate places to work and socialize. And I'm not suggesting these are a total sort of substitute for interpersonal, interaction and whatnot. But
depends if you read. Did you read Ready Player One, or have you already read Ready Player Two? In terms
I haven't read the second, but yeah, the first was relatively dystopic.
Yeah, it gets more so with the second, but it shows both, right? Like the potential for some of the cool stuff that can occur like in a virtual world, and then some of the potential consequences. But obviously, you're staking your career on saying, hey, I think I can spend the next however many years of my career focusing on this space, and it's not like you're going to run out of stuff to be investing in or paying attention to or being excited about, because like you said, we're just getting started.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think it's important as well, like here's probably a good opportunity to like draw the distinction between, you know, this idea of the metaverse, maybe one that's kind of described, you know, by Ernest Cline and Ready Player One, or the open metaverse, which is the one that is based on decentralized networks, you know, leveraging all of these open standards, cryptographic technologies to have self-sovereign identity, privacy by design systems that, you know, the underlying business model of these virtual worlds of tomorrow isn't the exploitative ad-driven crap that we see right now. You know, that's like the push we're making. And, you know, it's, many of us regard it as fighting the good fight because obviously Facebook's already, you know, making its play in virtual reality. It's bought up Oculus. They've already begun to do a bunch of things which, you know, forcing people through the Facebook account system, bricking headsets if you get proven to not be using your real name. Like, you know, you can see where it could go pretty easily. So I, for one, like, I'm interested in dedicating time and energy to trying to help cultivate the open metaverse where, you know, somewhat immune from these things.
How open do you think that fight is? Like, is it, do you think it's kind of, we're destined to kind of have a multi-universe type of thing where some of it's super proprietary under the Facebook or whoever umbrella, and then there'll always be this alternative? Or do you think we're inevitably going to end up like all in one area or all in the other?
I'd like to think that the open version could scale and deliver comparable experiences such that there's no real incentive to go for the shitty centralized version where you're not assured any of the rights you are elsewhere. You know, once you have true asset ownership, digital property rights, and all of the good stuff that comes with crypto, it's like, once you've tasted it, I think it's kind of hard to go back. And I think, you know, we're probably within 12 to 18 months of seeing like some AAA publisher implement some kind of, you know, NFT mechanic marketplace, even just for simple cosmetics or whatever. And I kind of think that the floodgates will open then, and others will begin to pay much more attention to it, as they kind of already are.
So when you say publisher, you mean like a game publisher. So I don't know anything about it, but let's throw some out there. If Steam says, hey, we're going to start supporting open protocols for in-game items that then can be transitioned within our games, but it's open, so it can also be transitioned to other games. Is that the type of thing you mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, like, obviously there are still massive disincentives for all of these guys to implement stuff like this, right? Their business models depend on these one-way microtransactions. Look at Fortnite for skins and stuff like that. You know, there's gonna the exact dynamics that contribute to them eventually opening up are still a bit unclear to me. But, you know, we've got titans of the gaming world like Ubisoft who have actively been looking at this space. You know, Nicholas heads up their blockchain initiative there. I think he's a super forward-looking and creative guy. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked, you know, if someone like that was to make a play. And then, you know, the big point around a lot of this, and is also, you know, Matthew Ball writes at length about sort of the business strategy behind Epic Games and Fortnite. This idea that, for example, even when they forced game companies out of this like digital isolationism, right, whereby you couldn't even cross-play not very long ago, and they realized that you know, opening this stuff up, even if you're capturing sort of like slightly less of the market, by making the pie that much bigger, it's more profitable for everyone involved. And
yeah,
I think this mindset will eventually, you know, permeate even the big publishers around. Once we do see these crazy breakout successes from this industry, you know, a lot of the IP will have been forged maybe from within the crypto world. But as more and more successes kind of compound at scale, I mean, I think it would be silly for them not to start paying attention to this stuff.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. I mean, that those battles played out on the web. You know, like there could have been these closed internets that are corporate focused, but it ended up kind of being a hybrid, right? Where social media almost completely closed. We see a lot of consequences of that, but the broader web, you know, visiting websites completely open.
Yeah, 100%. And we're seeing that right now. Again, Epic Games with the Apple fight, I think most people will have come across. For those that haven't, basically Epic Games circumvented iOS's App Store policy, which collects 30% fees on any, you know, revenue flowing through any app on iOS, because they just said this is basically monopolistic and, you know, not great. And they got obviously cut out of the store, and there's this massive ongoing legal of debate, and Tim Sweeney's provided some wicked commentary on this. Matthew Ball's also recently released an awesome essay on this, but he points out that if the internet was invented today, it wouldn't be allowed to be listed on the iOS App Store. That's how restrictive their terms are right now, which is pretty crazy.
That's not good. Yeah, coming from the web myself, that is depressing. So why don't we transition to, like, how do you look at this now? You know, because in some ways we're just scratching the surface. In other ways, there's a lot of like really bubbly stuff. You know, not to say CryptoPunks aren't cool, but you know, CryptoPunks, the floor is like 30 ETH or something right now for a punk, or like various types of art, or a new collection comes out and it immediately 10x's based off of what the bonding curve price was. I kind of assume you agree that some of that consumer behavior is pretty elevated, like pretty bubbly. But at the same time, we're really only exploring one component of what NFTs are, right? It's just, we're talking about, here's a collectible or a digital collectible, a card based thing, that kind of stuff. Whereas you're envisioning much more. How do you navigate
Very much
that?
so, yeah. With extreme caution and skepticism right now, to be totally honest, because yes, it's super exciting, and maybe we didn't quite expect NFTs to have their moment in the sun so soon. You know, I mean, you've got Wired and Bloomberg and TechCrunch and everyone writing about these things. I mean, the cat's out the bag, and the value proposition to the end user and the value proposition to the creator of these things, you know, take the art context, is so overwhelmingly apparent. I completely understand why there's so much enthusiasm and this massive influx. Like, this stuff makes sense and it's exciting, and people that aren't investors all of a sudden have a way to back, you know, like mimetic investing, meme investing. They have ways to put money into things that they're excited about, an artist they like, things that don't necessarily pass rigorous investment due diligence, but invite them into this whole new kind of creator economy from an investment perspective. And that's awesome. It's super exciting to see. But yeah, I mean, undeniably frothy. I think some of the price tags that these things are fetching is pretty crazy. I have already written a note where I, issued a word of warning just for everyone to make sure that, you know, they're happy to hold whatever they're buying at whatever price point, and they bought it for the next 3 years, assuming, you know, something goes wrong. If the market falls out or whatever, it's just, I'm pretty confident appetite for this stuff's going to dry up. And, when you have every single record-breaking sale ever happening in the last 30 days, like, yeah, super exciting. People are waking up to it. Massive influx of new players, new users, many of which are driven by something like Top Shot, which, you know, a large portion of them are paying with credit cards. These people come from outside crypto. It's wicked to see. It's exciting to take a step. I mean, a lot of the projects now as well that are raising and, you know, chucking big price tags with little traction, but some pretty cool artwork. It's like, yeah, it looks cool, but yeah, I'm not completely sold that it's just up only.
Yeah, nice. So let's bridge that to where are the opportunities, you know, because somebody, it starts to click with them, but, you know, at the same time, not going to, I'm personally, I felt late to some of these things, so I'm not going to go spend 30 or 40 ETH on a CryptoPunk. But I want exposure to NFTs. I want exposure to this technology. What are you excited about today that is not at the market, is not to the market yet? It doesn't, you know, it's not out yet, but you could be looking forward to it, or maybe that it's more fairly priced. Maybe some of the network-based stuff for the marketplaces have some opportunities.
Yeah, I think in terms of people engaging with this stuff, the one thing that I would always say is, like, if there's anything that really grips you and really excites you, be it an artwork or a collectible, or I mean, engage with the stuff that really gets you going. I mean, recently my brother's really got into So Rare, you know, the soccer game. And for someone that loves football, all of him and his mates are now going crazy about it. Something like that, things that you can see it click with someone, not just, an individual, but a group of people. I think, the sports themed licensed collectibles is low hanging fruit, if you ask me, because you're tapping into the most passionate tribes on the planet, whether it's the NBA, whether it's So Rare, whether it's, I'm sure tennis and PGA Tour and all the others are going to come soon enough, whether it's from the existing players or others that manage to lock in the licensing, I don't know. But, that to my mind is kind of low hanging fruit with some of that stuff. In terms of like raw collectible projects, I have no useful words here. I think, as I say, if it really resonates with you, great. I mean, something like Hash Masks was super cool to see. Beautiful artwork built by loads of different artists. Some interesting novel mechanics that we hadn't actually seen yet. Some wicked stuff, obviously priced around those different pricing tiers, driving a bit of FOMO for the early entrants. Like, you can see how something like that's going to start moving. But yeah, otherwise I'm just kind of skeptical of a lot of this stuff at the moment. That said, this wave of explosion has exposed, or rather exacerbated, many of the friction points we kind of knew were there. And so one of the interesting areas for me is solving those friction points, because those are universal and they apply to every single application of NFTs. So one of those obviously is scaling, right? Obviously Polygon's really picking up. We've got a bunch of cool projects over there. That's great to see, but still kind of side chain solution. One project I'm really excited about is Immutable X, the layer 2 built by the Starkware guys and the Immutable guys behind Gods Unchained.
Yeah.
That should be launching relatively soon. And some of the kinds of behaviors that unlocks are super cool. Sort of all the metadata aspect of their marketplace and whatnot is really neat. And it looks like we might have something that can kind of compete with like Flow in terms of scalability, but on Ethereum, and preserving some of those things which, if you're at all ideologically inclined, matter. That said, it's no sort of diss to Flow at all. I think what Flow's done is amazing. There's a part of me that's excited about the Ethereum scaling aspect too. And also Flow's just killing the partnerships and sort of IP wars right now. They've got a thick pipeline, so they've got that going for them too.
Is like the Top Shots one, it seems like there's certainly some crypto rich activity, that group of people like that have too much Ethereum, don't know what to do with it. They go play in Top Shots. But honestly, in that landscape, most of it seems to be coming from the basketball world that's excited about it. Am I wrong in that? And that seems to me like the best onboarding, because like you said, you apply that to soccer and golf and tennis or whatever in the world has super fans. That pulls a ton of people in the ecosystem, doesn't it?
100%, yeah. And, I think Rohan tweeted out something alluding to the portion that had been crypto purchases versus Visa or card based or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was like, I think the majority was card based, which is just a strong indication of people from outside the ecosystem coming in once again. And I say once again because you got to remember that Dapper Labs already crushed it once with CryptoKitties. Yeah, it ground down Ethereum and was like 15% of transactions on the network at the time. But again, it was in like, more mainstream tech commentary and definitely turned heads from outside of crypto. And, I think that's awesome. I think it's great. I mean, I had, do you worry about, Flow versus Ethereum, maybe like fracturing the still nascent NFT space? And he was like, no way. He was like, a bunch of the big hash mask buyers were people that had entered crypto because of Top Shot, and then were using, some of the money they'd made or whatever to buy hash masks. And I was like, I have no quarrels with that. So yeah.
Yeah, it just pulls them in to figure out what else exists here. Do you think there'll be a time where, especially I think of like Flow and, if Immutable comes out, if theirs is their own blockchain, the ones that are very Armatic, they're very NFT centric, there's got to be some kind of bridges that are created between these, right?
Yeah, 100%. That's the hope. And you want those proper sort of two-way bridges that aren't too much friction, such that you can actually move things around reasonably. I know that Flow we're definitely working on a bridge, at least one way at first, for obviously the CryptoKitties port over to Flow. I think it's in everyone's best interest. Again, touching upon earlier this idea that growing the pie together is the right strategy with a lot of this stuff. I think I'd be pretty disappointed if anyone intentionally isolated any ecosystem participants from any other. But the entire foundation, the entire ethos behind this whole space is open source, decentralized technologies, interoperability. Like I don't think that's going anywhere. OpenSea is already integrated. The Matic integration is in beta. You literally can't even tell that you're using Matic on the back end. Everything just works better and is cheaper on OpenSea, which is wicked. And then also they've announced the Flow integration. So yeah, I'm excited to see all that comes there.
That's gotta be important, because I mean, if everybody's just stuck on their own little islands, then it doesn't work near as well versus if they're fully integrated.
100%, yeah. And then I know the engine guys are working on a new project as well based off Polkadot, which is like going to have functionality for connecting all these chains too. So that's all pretty exciting. And then the other, in terms of solving frictions kind of bets at almost an infrastructure layer, the other one is just like dropping barriers to entry for developers. I think it's probably pretty terrifying if you're a developer looking at most of this stuff, and
yeah.
That's not just gas fees. It's stuff like, fiat on ramps, like how the hell are users expected to host a wallet? We need like social logins and stuff like that. So keeping an eye on a few different projects, really looking to kind of solve some of those frictions. Crucible Network building an SDK around Unreal. The Stardust guys are kind of holding off on any sort of chain integrations just yet, but looking to provide a bunch of useful tooling for developers. And then the Horizon guys that built Skyweaver are also coming out with something called Sequence, which is another kind of SDK, I believe, which has functionality like the social logins and stuff. So those will all be super interesting. We'll see what comes.
So let's go from the in-game items is certainly one thing where there's a pretty decent amount of utility, right? Because if it's like a skin or an accessory, maybe even like weapons or leveling up type of stuff, those can be associated to the game. There's a decent amount of utility. Then there's the collectibles or the artwork utilities, mostly just the subjectivity or the value of the item. But there's kind of an inner in between too, right? Where do you think there's going to be stuff where there's an NFT, but it's also the utility is in the fact that it's a game itself? Hashmasks has hinted at this, where all the hash masks are actually a puzzle. But I could also imagine where you own a pack, like if you have a collection, like you order a pack and it ends up being kind of like Magic the Gathering, right? Like your pack has power, or there's utility within a game that you play online. Have we seen much of that yet? Am I missing where that exists currently?
Yeah, I think, even with the Magic the Gathering example, what Gods Unchained built around, tradable card game where they will come in packs, you open these things, it's like, verifiable randomness or whatever to them. And they spit out cards, you assemble a deck and like play them in a game context, exactly like Magic the Gathering. In fact, Chris Clay, the game designer from Magic the Gathering, actually defected to Gods Unchained, which is good fun. Nice. So there's there's that kind of stuff out there already. I think one of the least explored areas that I'm most interested about, as I say, I'd probably do video games, virtual worlds, collectibles, and art currently. And then the fifth, which will one day be big, and let's see what happens, is like utility, right? We'd call it like that category. So obviously we're seeing like kind of domain space already around some of this stuff. You could have tradable as NFTs. We're obviously starting to see like with Wi-Fi, with Wiresure representing financial products with NFTs. At some stage, we could have NFTs representing real world assets. There are projects like Centrifuge with Tin Lake working towards this. But then there's like really cool stuff too. There are projects like Meta Factory working to pioneer the concept of digi-physical merchandise. So you buy this jacket and you get it shipped to you. and you also get an NFT that you can wear on your character in these different virtual worlds whilst also wearing it in real life. The latest editions of some of this stuff actually have like embedded chips,
Oh, wow.
NFC chips that,
Yeah.
yeah. So those are super cool. And
Do
I've kind of
those
been thinking around
exist?
some of that
Those
stuff.
already
Like,
exist? The ones
so
that
the
bridge the
NFC,
physical?
yeah. I'm yet to get my hands on one, but I've Drew's shown me them, so they look cool. I'm
But
definitely gonna be checking them out.
what
I'm hoping
platforms are
to
those based on?
do out. So a Meta Factory has their own site that you buy these things through, but I think the NFTs are then individually sort of tradable wherever you want on any open marketplace afterwards. Yeah, I mean, we're kind of just scratching the surface with some of that stuff. Obviously, like event tickets. We already have stuff like proof of attendance protocol, Hope, whereby you get dropped an NFT. I think, yeah, I'm super excited to see where it goes. The other one, a guy on the team was talking about the other day was, like digital so NFTs for concert attendance that can verify that you've had your COVID jabs and all that kind of fun stuff. So yeah, it's we'll see where it goes. But
Yes.
I think the design space is still thoroughly unexplored, both in the like now dominant categories, but also outside them.
A big part of this is the royalties as it's sold over and over again, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of the examples Mark Cuban gave in an interview was if Mavs tickets, if each ticket was an NFT, you have the history, and then you also have a royalty that you can build in so that the Mavs don't have to care about scalping anymore because they're always going to get 10 or 15% of the sale every time it's resold. What fascinates you about that? Or like, what do you think it unlocks?
Well, I think I think it's completely huge. I mean, this applies to so many different kind of verticals. Obviously, the art one, straightforward, makes
Yeah,
sense.
the artist makes money forever off of their piece.
You can't. I mean, yeah, collecting royalties on secondary market sales in the traditional art world is just like super difficult. You can now think of game asset designers, people building UGC, anyone that uses and buys that thing in perpetuity. They're actually now generating cash flows from like a single creation to begin with. You think about something like in the fashion world with sneaker drops where they're notoriously get botted and flip for 5-6x on the secondary markets instantly. Like now all of a sudden those dynamics like hardly even matter. Like now you have ways for brands to participate in that speculative activity, which that whole industry has become notorious for, which is just crazy. I mean, that's such an asset to the kind of fashion world. And beyond that, traditionally in the example of a sneaker drop, the brand's just kind of guessing, right? They're like, yeah, we'll call it 300 quid, we'll call it $300, like whatever. They have no way to actually assess pricing on that stuff. As you would have seen with a bunch of things already. I mean, Unisocks was perhaps the first example, like pricing this stuff along a bonding curve where you have dynamic pricing and like as demand scales, so does price, just allows you. I mean, it's just a no-brainer to these brands, I think. I've had a bunch of conversations with a few people in the kind of the fashion world around this stuff, and the appeal is very apparent. It's just like, obviously these established fashion brands need to like be cautious and move slowly, and it's not yet clear how you like give crypto wallets and educate people on all of these crazy mechanics yet. But we'll get there. It's cool. It's all happening.
Yeah, I've always just at least heard or thought a creator, if they are only getting that one sale, if they don't price it right, kind of like a company that does an IPO and it's mispriced in the IPO, that initial share distribution or the initial piece of art, well, maybe they priced it at $100,000. Well, they kind of have a chip on their shoulder if it ends up being worth $100 million in a relatively short amount of time later. Or the person that sets the price on, the sneaker drop, then it goes 10x on the secondary market. Maybe they designed that from a FOMO perspective, but maybe they just mispriced it and they don't see a bit of that in the over time as it flips. This seems to solve a lot of that because, for one, several of these examples, whether it's ticketing with scalping, they can just stop caring because they're always going to earn on it. Two, when you're the creator, you're not going to be like annoyed at your pricing or the fact that some speculator is making tons of money off of your work. And it seems like it makes it much more symbiotic between all the participants.
100%. And I think one point I often like to stress is like these royalties, the fee structures you can embed around these governing contracts, like, are by no means static either. You know, you can like do like exploding royalties that either decrease or increase with each successive trade. You can do things like the first person that obviously backed it the earliest, and therefore you want to maybe share additional value with. Let's say there's a 10% royalty fee captured in perpetuity. The first person to have bought it might get 3% of that, you know? And it's a really cool way to like mess with these mechanics, and you have surprising like granularity with which you can configure these things. So that's one area that I don't think has been that explored yet, but makes a ton of sense to do so.
When you do consulting through Delphi, is that part of what y'all are doing, is like helping people that are creating these things, help them understand what is possible?
Yeah, I mean, the consulting definitely leans much more towards the kind of DeFi space, I'd say, or at least historically has. Although that's changing. There's a number of projects that kind of being worked with at the moment that definitely touch upon some of these things. So yeah, excited to see where it all goes, really.
And I want to spend some time talking about one that, honestly, I think I liked it because it just clicked with me, which was I don't know what you'd call it, more of the tooling and the frameworks for playing with all this stuff. One of those would be a marketplace, like an OpenSea or a more curated marketplace that has their own brand to it. The other one would be like the NFTX type of marketplace, where what you do there is you're creating liquidity from something that is not particularly liquid by itself. So you're bundling a bunch of NFTs together, and then you create an ERC20 token out of it. That's kind of what the NFTX side of things does. Maybe describe a little bit about the liquidity dynamics there that can come in play, and then where do you think that goes from here? Because that seems like maybe it's just step one, huh?
Absolutely, yeah. So one of the like fundamental problems with a lot of NFTs is, they change hands very infrequently. It's super hard to do pricing on them. And currently there's, a few solutions being worked on. One of which I'll mention up front is Upshot, which is basically building these appraisal games. It's kind of like pays people to be honest, sort of wisdom of the crowds type approach, where a randomly selected group of people who have sort of opted into valuing these things can have their say in how much something's worth, and the NFT doesn't have to change hands to do so, and it's just a useful data point which should be accessible by their API, which will be either a single NFT or a group of them being fractionalized, basically. So let's say I have one super rare Axie. I could put it in a contract, basically split it up into 1,000 or 10,000 tokens, and then those would be ERC20s, which are sort of tradable. And depending on how this fractionalization happens, these things often have like a sort of buyout clause, which allows you to basically, I think they call it a shotgun clause or something, but basically allows you to grab the sort of underlying asset if you accumulate enough of that supply. I think one of the really interesting examples of this, for those curious, is B20, a project called B20, and that's so Beeple, the awesome crypto art pioneer who's been doing an artwork a day for over 5,000 days now, 14 years almost, has recently blown up in the crypto world. He's got a piece of the first 5,000 works on auction at Christie's right now, which I reckon is going to go for $25 million pretty comfortably. But yeah, so back in November or December, he did a drop there were 21 one-of-one pieces, each of which went for over $100,000. But turns out that the buyer of 20 out of those 21 was all the same dude with a team with him doing it through different accounts, a guy called Metacoven. And he's taken all of those artworks, which were bought for an aggregate price of like 2.2 mil, I think, and put them in a sort of contract along with some virtual art galleries which were built in various virtual worlds, and basically bundled them up and fractionalized them so people could trade. This is the chart right here. Might look like a multi-year chart or something, but this is literally a month.
Yeah,
and
this is a
I mean, this
4-hour chart, so it's not long.
So God, that doesn't look good. But Yeah, I mean, this thing's done like 40x or something crazy in about a month, just because in terms of investable surface area, like all of the floor price of any Beeple artwork is raising rapidly with this Christie's auction going on. That's only been further exacerbated. And this is a really cool way that basically anyone can get exposure to this stuff. And, you know, some people doubt like, you know, the extent to which this might represent an actual claim to the underlying stuff. Like, why would you want to do this? But again, like a lot of this world isn't necessarily about like sophistication of investing. People buy this stuff because they like it and want to be a part of the whole story and journey.
And as a speculator, it could give you exposure to it without being able to or needing to afford like one singular Beeple piece, or choosing like which Beeple piece is the right one, because there's obviously such a discrepancy potentially when you're trying to make those decisions.
Absolutely, yeah. So yeah, that's kind of the indexing and fractionalization aspect.
Upshot's going to basically enable the same type of thing that B20 does, right?
Yeah, although you wouldn't need to like fractionalize anything, you wouldn't even need to trade hands of the NFT to get like an estimation of its actual price, which again should be callable via an API. And like, whilst people shouldn't use that as an ultimate objective source of truth, it's certainly a useful data point and can be incorporated into a bunch of other products to enable kind of different behaviors. The other aspect is just around sort of indexing more generally. You mentioned the NIFTX or NFTX, however you want to go with it.
I like your pronunciation of that one better. NIFTX is sounds good.
It's easier.
British people generally say things that sound better than when I say them, so it makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure I could find you a northerner that would beg to differ, but we'll see. The thing around indexing more broadly is that like there still aren't that many great tools for them. We had a bit of back and forth lately after Delphi pushed out a note around the NIFTX side of things. Basically, one of our kind of critiques was that you know, you're only really tracking the kind of floor price of assets in these index funds. Effectively, anyone can commit an NFT to this fund. Let's say it's like a certain breed or a certain type of punks, and anyone that like has an ownership stake in that fund can withdraw can withdraw an NFT from the index fund, and it's randomly given to them. And so our kind of point was that there's no incentive for anyone to put like better NFTs in there, because they're just going to get arbed out. But you know, some people in the community drew attention to the fact that it was supposedly part of the design to track just floor assets and not risk people getting arbed out of the fund, basically.
But in fact, you're actually motivated to put the worst possible ones, or like the cheapest, least valuable possible ones, because you have no incentive to put a better one in.
Correct. Your incentive in such a case is to hope that other people don't understand this and just trade in and out with the worst ones you possibly can find until you luckily put out a sick one, and then, you know, see ya, boys. That was kind of our point. But anyway, I think there's a bunch of kind of sort of quasi-index plays on a lot of this stuff. You know, we have stuff like Whale that's accumulated a wicked portfolio of sort of NFTs from art to game assets in their vault. And that trades at like, you know, a crazy premium to the sort of net value of assets in the vault. And I think a lot of these things currently do have pretty wild premiums, but part of me suspects that's just because index tooling isn't that evolved yet. And I think, you know, maybe over the next 12, 24 months, as more solutions come to market, you know, I know the Immutable guys are working on something that also incorporates the kind of metadata aspect that I referenced earlier. So I mean, I love the idea. I think, you know, it's a very important piece of infrastructure. I think it's a wicked way to get exposure to people that, for people that, you know, don't want to dig through all these crazy projects or whatever. But yeah, that's one space. I feel like the design so far is suboptimal, and there's a way to go still.
What else do you think is going to be developed in that landscape of, you know, tooling or liquidity or, you know, bringing access to NFTs?
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what gets built around the Upshot stuff. I mean, we've toyed with a few cool ideas internally, which I probably shouldn't mention just yet. But
that's okay. I know one. So I guess one is like the borrow market, right? Like I've seen people talk about, it's almost like a pawn shop, because it's hard. It's not the same valuation. It's not like you get liquidated. It's just that they keep it until you bring it back, right? Is that one that you think will be pretty big?
Exactly. You can see how, instant efficiency increase once you have, the appraisal API in something like that to begin with. But I think lending in general has a super long way to go, right? There's a bunch of us in the industry that are championing this EIP 2615, which basically will be like an extension of the ERC 721 standard, which will incorporate lending, like rental and delegation functions into NFTs such that the owner is not necessarily the user. And all of a sudden, I can basically lend out this asset for someone to use it in any relevant game context. The current, borrowing and lending market, as you say, it sits in an escrow contract basically until the relevant parties fulfill whatever they were meant to fulfill. And like that's cool if you want liquidity and lead alone and don't want to sell any of the things. But what if I want to borrow? What if I want to borrow a sick ass game asset to go and like have a battle with my buddy? Like that's just not a thing yet. But it's coming, and that will like massively unlock just crazy behaviors in the market.
Let's back that example up a little bit. I'm not a very good gamer. I don't understand it very much, but let's say it's an equivalent of World of Warcraft, and I need to be like level 70, and my buddy's level 70, but I'm like level 32. And so what you're saying is I can deposit my level 32, or I can deposit, I don't know, 1 Ethereum and borrow the level 70 to go battle my buddy and be heads up from a talent perspective, right?
Exactly. That assumes that the NFT is the account. Or a better analogy might be you're both level 100, but this guy's got a special sword worth $1 million, and you really want to use it. And you borrow that, it gets lent to your account, and then after X period or whatever the agreed terms are, it will get
goes back.
hooked back into the exactly. There's a company we've invested in that I'm super excited about called Yield Guild, and a large part of kind of what they hope to enable is around this stuff. Basically connecting people that are maybe kind of time rich but perhaps cash poor and can't access these really wicked high-end NFTs with people that own these high-end NFTs but maybe don't have the time to deploy them in the relevant game context and therefore earn yield on them. So you basically connect that sort of supply and demand, and the guild members will go, they'll take that item, they'll deploy it in Axie, they'll battle, they'll farm, they'll whatever, and then a portion of the yields obviously they keep, and the rest flows back to the original guy, and a portion is kept by the protocol for the guild. It's so cool. It's like I'm super pumped.
Yeah, I like that. It's kind of like Airbnb for in-game stuff.
Yeah, exactly. It's wicked.
Or at least the original vision for Airbnb. Just when you're not using it, you lease it out. But
absolutely. But cool. That's the thing. Like a lot of these assets just sit, idle in wallets, and I mean, Delphi acquired a portfolio of Axies like late last year, and those don't do anything currently. Everyone's busy. No one's out there battling Axies all day. But they will be at some point through Yield Guild.
Yeah. So the destination for some of this that I personally get excited about, but I also realize the roadblocks are massive, is when you get to public records or like public titles. This obviously gets difficult, but as an example, I could imagine, like Zillow is how you look at homes, but a home or a mortgage, I could imagine this whole process being an NFT. The hard part is you have to get governments and, like really official people to agree to it. But this is obviously long-term the better way to manage public titles, whether it's whether it's a mortgage or whether it's a car title or anything, where this digital public record is an important component, but the ownership belongs to an individual. Is that kind of your, 30, 40-year plan of where some of this goes? Because I see if you're doing it with Dallas Mavericks tickets, it's there's not a whole lot of people in the way, right? It's private entities, or if it's games. But when you bring governments into it, do you think that's the destination, like where a lot of this is headed?
Yeah, I mean, I can't see any reason why it wouldn't be. As you say, it's just quite obviously a better way to do this. But on the one hand, our crypto systems and the actual technology around it needs to evolve to a point, where it can accommodate this stuff. And on the flip side, like the law and the legal frameworks also need to evolve. But yeah, there's 100% going to be a nexus. And as I mentioned Centrifuge and Tin Lake looking to bring sort of, real world assets into the whole sort of crypto space. One point I like to stress too is like, as and when that happens, there is an entirely new universe of collateral available to this new decentralized finance world that we're building. It's not just, oh, hell yeah, I can use my CryptoPunk as collateral anymore. It's like, dude, I can use my house.
Yeah.
It gets crazy. It unlocks all sorts. So really, really excited to see how all of that evolves. I think that intersection is going to be huge. And that's what drives DeFi from where it's at to 100x, 1000x over the next 20, 30, 40 years, easy. So
I can really imagine jurisdictionally though, like progressive jurisdictions, whether that's countries or whether it's a locality, somebody's going to start opening that up and it's going to really work. And back in, you talked about being in crypto in the last cycle. In the last cycle, people talked about putting everything on the freaking blockchain, and it was like, none of it made very much sense to me. Now, when you're talking about individual items and the capacity to truly put things on a blockchain, especially bridging the virtual and the physical, it starts to make a lot more sense to me, because more stuff it makes sense on a blockchain as an NFT than it does as a ERC20. And it seems like some of this might actually click this time.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's a wonderfully elegant mechanism for doing that, for describing anything which isn't, mutually interchangeable with something else, which is pretty much everything in the real world. But at the same time, whilst that's a really interesting area of exploration, like also important not to get ahead of ourselves. Like the actual mechanics of that happening is still, very unclear. We're getting there, but
certainly when you talk about public entities where everything moves super slow, but we're going to see essentially trial runs of this with all of the private entities that don't have anything in the way. It's just their desire to adopt the tech.
Yeah. Exactly. And you can see how in like localized instances, I don't know, of someone wanting to deposit some diamonds or jewelry that's been valued as X in physical custody, and there's some guarantees from a reputable whatever, like you can see how those things begin to be a bit more fluid. But yeah, when like houses and stuff end up on there, it's a bit weird. Like let's say, the fun example is my house is represented as this NFT, I'm using it as collateral, whatever, and my wallet gets hacked and now someone owns this NFT which represents my house. He just rocks up with his wallet like, sorry dude, out you go.
Yeah, no, obviously there's some confusing bits there still. Why don't you leave me with something you want the audience to know, or what you feel like's around the corner but awareness isn't there, or maybe it's just a word of warning. I don't know.
It's I'd rather it be a word of like encouragement and excitement. Just always second guess everything. Slow and steady wins the race. I know everything's going super exciting right now, but
I've got one of my please shill us something. So he just wants the tips.
Yeah, I'll come up with a shit at the end. But I got one of my really close mates into crypto art in particular, and he's like obsessed. He's on every drop now, like has serious FOMO. And I just said to him this week, like, maybe under 0.0001% of all creators to ever drop an NFT drop have done so already. Like we have many decades of this stuff ahead of us. Like just relax. If there are people that you love out there, like artists, I don't know, musicians, like they will probably do something like this at some point. Like this is a very long game ahead of us. Yeah, it's wicked to see this enthusiasm, but all in good time. I think the FOMO doesn't help anyone. Although obviously I recommend some exposure to this space. But it
seems like we should still consider the quality of what we're purchasing in its own right, outside of the fact that it's an NFT. Because what you're saying is like, I don't remember who was it that sold the 11 billion? I don't know, or $11 million worth the other day. Blau, or does that pronounce it?
Yeah, of the platinum record. Yeah, Blau, exactly.
Yeah. So it's like, maybe they're a good musician. I don't know. But like what about when Sting does it, or something, or like something,
Yeah.
like how do
So
you differentiate?
the weird thing is you have like counteractive forces in some respect, in that you would have thought that with increased optionality, with more people coming into the space, the overall quality of people doing drops improves. So therefore you'd think more demand for them. But on the flip side, the novelty of doing a drop wears off. So I think the premiums decline over time. So it's like, again, be mindful of that, sort of balance all of that stuff. But yeah, I just urge people not to feel too rushed. I think we've got a long way to go, and there's plenty of time to get involved with all of this stuff. Yeah.
So get excited about the technology. Don't get too overeager about buying something just because it's available.
Exactly. I mean, just 800 ETH drops on CryptoPunks, like it's tricky territory. I don't know what to say there. But yeah, I do got to scoot though shortly. So
yeah, I appreciate you being here. If people want to follow you, they can do so at Piers Kicks on Twitter, and follow your work at Bitcraft VC and at Delphi Digital, all of which will link. And I have a dozen open tabs that I'm going to put in the show notes from things that you mentioned in today's show that we will include. Piers, thanks so much. I've really appreciated your time. Thanks to Token Sets for being our partner. Go to ledgerstatus.com/sets to check it out. Catch everybody next time.
Thanks a lot, Brian.
In the blink of an eye, the easy river has just run dry. In a house of cards,